Last night, Dana White announced some major fights. First and foremost, Ilia Topuria will be vacating his featherweight title and moving up to the lightweight division. Ilia's first opponent at lightweight, however, has yet to be announced. Alexander Volkanovski will be fighting Diego Lopez in the main event of UFC 314 for the vacant featherweight title. Michael Chandler vs. Paddy Pimblett will be the co-main event of the card. Patricio Pitbull has officially signed with the UFC and will be taking on Yair Rodriguez. Jeff Neal is fighting rising star Carlos Prates, and Dominic Reyes is set to face Nikita Krylov. Leon Edwards will no longer be fighting Jack Della Maddalena in the main event of UFC London. Instead, Leon will now be facing Sean Brady. Jack Della Maddalena will now be fighting Bilal Muhammad for the welterweight title in the main event of UFC 315. Bilal was quick to taunt Leon after the news broke. He wrote, "Dang, I stole Leon's belt and his opponent." The MMA community was assuming that Bilal would be defending his belt against Shavkat Rakhmonov. However, Shavkat is injured. He posted this to X after the news broke. He wrote, "Big thanks to the UFC for offering me the shot at the belt first. Unfortunately, due to injury, I won't be ready for May. I'll be facing the winner later this year." And to end it off, Valentina Shevchenko is set to defend her flyweight title against Manon Fiorot in the co-main event of UFC 315. What do you guys think of these fight announcements? Post some predictions in the comments. After it was announced that Ilia Topuria vacated his title, Ilia shared this photo on Instagram with the caption, "Not like us." Ariel Helwani says the plan is for Ilia to immediately challenge Islam Makhachev for the lightweight belt later this year. However, Islam's manager doesn't seem to be on the same page as Ariel. Islam's manager Rizvan Magomedov says Topuria versus Dustin/Charles contender fight to prove he's a legit lightweight, so we don't have to defeat another small featherweight. We need a big fight that makes sense for everyone. We already gave chances to the featherweight champ that was reigning for a long time. Alexander Volkanovski previews his upcoming fight against Diego Lopez. He feels as though people are writing him off after getting knocked out 2 times in a row. Volk says he's looking forward to proving them wrong.
Keep it like that, and then we will peak at the right time. So, all the 1%ers. But, yeah, Lopez, obviously a dangerous dude. Bit of a different matchup to Ilia. Obviously, both dangerous fighters. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this one. Very excited. Excited to show everyone. Obviously, people are like, he's old, he's done. I hope people are thinking that. Everyone knows I love the underdog story. Everyone knows I love to prove people wrong. I still think a lot of people believe in me and know I'm going to go out there and look great anyway. But for those who don't, you have every right to think that until I change your opinion. And that's exactly what I'm going to do April 12th. So cannot wait for that.
Diego Lopez posted this on X after it was announced that he was fighting Volk for the belt. He wrote, "I have worked like no one else in recent years. I have accepted challenges and dares that the UFC has put in front of me. I have said yes in every situation, even when it was not favorable for me. In less than 2 years within the UFC, I will have my opportunity for the title. I will not fail. Dream, believe, and make it happen. #NNew." Michael Chandler reveals how the fight with Paddy Pimblett materialized. In a video he posted to his Instagram after the fight announcement, Chandler says his recent loss to Charles Oliveira was the most disappointing loss of his entire career and wanted to get back into the octagon as soon as possible. Chandler says he loves this matchup with Paddy and is confident he gets the job done.
In this sport, things move very fast. I was on a vacation last week, got a call and said, "Hey, what do you think about fighting Paddy Pimblett in April?" And I said, "Well, Hunter, April's only 8 weeks away. I like to put down about 4 weeks of training before I go into an 8-week camp. Let me think about it." Next day, flew to Vegas, sat down with him in his office. We talked through everything, and we've made the decision. Fighting Paddy Pimblett, Miami, April 12th. Because a imperfect plan implemented now is better than a perfect plan implemented months from now. And in this sport, things move fast. There's a lot of stuff going on with the division. There's a big summer for the lightweight division. And after the last fight, one of the most disappointing losses of my career, I wanted to get right back on the horse, get right back in the octagon. So here we go. I like the matchup. Love the matchup, actually. I respect Paddy. I think Paddy's a skilled fighter. I think he's still got a bright future, but I think he's going to run into a buzzsaw named Michael Chandler on April 12th. And as always, I will be the most entertaining guy that steps inside the octagon that night. I will have everybody on their feet. I will have everybody on the edge of their seat. And typical Chandler fashion, we're going out there with one goal in mind, and that's to separate our opponent from consciousness. So, can't wait. We head into training camp today, and for the next 8 weeks, we're going to be getting after it. Thank you guys for being with me on this journey. God bless. I'll see you at the top.
Dana White explains why Ilia Topuria decided to vacate his featherweight title.
Topuria has felt like he's done all that he can in that division, and he feels like he's cemented his legacy, and his body cannot make the weight anymore. So Topuria will be moving up to 155 pounds and will be vacating the featherweight title. So the way that this works is, as soon as the first punch is thrown in this fight, the title is vacated. And we will announce what Topuria's next fight will be when we get it done.
Arman Tsarukyan posted footage of him hitting pads and accidentally knocking his coach out of the octagon. Kamaru Usman reflects on the encounter he had with Colby Covington over the weekend. The two crossed paths at the UFC Apex while Colby was live streaming on Twitch.
What is it? What's up, buddy? How you doing, man? Good to see you. It's a live stream. It's a live stream. Yeah. How you doing? Doing good? Yeah. All right, for sure.
Kamaru says he believes that Colby was quote-unquote in character during their interaction. He also complimented Colby on the suit he was wearing.
But yeah, Henry, this weekend, you know, I was in Vegas doing my thing on the desk, and I see Mr. Covington, you know, in his suit, looking straight. You know, I will give props here. Like, you know, he's had a couple of suits. I'm trying to remember what the suit looked like, but he's had a couple of suits on that I was like, yo, that's low key fresh, you know. But yeah, I seen him. I was walking by. He said, "What's up?" You know, dapped him up. But I think he was live streaming.
Was he in character or was he in character or out of character? Was it Colby?
Oh, it's chaos. He's always it's chaos. He's always, you know, in character.
He was trying to shake your hand. You shared a fist bump. Like, I got some food on me, dude. Later.
I had food in my hand. You know.
Hey, come on. That's the second time you done that. You did the same. You did the same. Charles Oliveira. And I love it, bro. I love it because I love a little rhyme. I love when it's not always, you know, lovey-dovey, dude.
Alex Bejeda is just 2 weeks away from defending his light heavyweight title against Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 313. In preparation, Bejeda shared new footage of himself sparring multiple training partners, with one of them being Dillon Danis. Magomed Ankalaev, on the other hand, has been training with UFC heavyweight Alexander Volkov. Here is some recent footage of the two sparring. Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier seem to be nearing a resolution to their long-standing feud. The animosity dates back to their 2022 fight, where Poirier won via rear naked choke in the third round. Tensions escalated immediately after the fight when Poirier accused Chandler of being a dirty fighter, claiming he attempted a fish hook during the submission attempt, leading Poirier to actually bite Chandler's finger. He also called Chandler out for grabbing his gloves multiple times. The two have been going back and forth on social media ever since. In a recent interview with Helen Yee, Poirier named Chandler as one of his favorite fighters to watch despite not being his biggest fan.
Who's your favorite fighter to watch right now?
Topuria, Gaethje, Hooker. I'm not a huge fan of him, but Michael Chandler, anytime he fights, I'll watch, you know.
Michael Chandler reposted that interview on X. He wrote, "We are slowly burying the hatchet. Great dude. Just had some differences here and there. Legend. First ballot Hall of Famer." Daniel Cormier has responded to Francis Ngannou's recent comments about a potential fight with Jon Jones. Francis stated that Dana White is the biggest obstacle preventing the fight from happening. Currently signed with the PFL, Ngannou's future with the UFC remains unclear, and DC believes the only way a bout with Jon Jones could materialize is if Francis returns to the UFC.
But Dana always would say stuff like, the UFC will always go on, regardless of what happens. Like when one person leaves, always gonna be UFC because they built it to that point. And when you talk about cross promotion, it's almost like there really is no point. They don't have to do it. And in business, in most instances, right, the powerful entity doesn't generally sway. You have to make adjustments, and you have to make you have to give in to be on their side. So if there is a cross promotion, or if there is a hope of Francis Ngannou fighting Jon Jones and getting back to that, it would have to be in the UFC.
Yes.
And I don't know at this point if either of those parties want to entertain that, because it didn't feel like Francis liked the UFC at the end. He felt like he should be doing much better. He left with a ton of power, though, as the world champion. So he's been able to make a very successful career outside of the UFC. But it still feels like if he's going to get that fight, and if he wants that fight, as much as it seems like he might want that fight, he's going to have to go back to the UFC.
Anthony Smith's retirement fight is scheduled for UFC Kansas City on April 6th. Smith will face Zhang Mingyang, a 26-year-old prospect currently on an 11-fight winning streak. While Smith initially was shocked about the matchup, given Zhang has only fought in the UFC 3 times, compared to Smith's 24 UFC appearances, he says he's excited for the challenge. He also responds to the notion that the UFC may be setting him up to lose against an up-and-coming contender. On the On Paper podcast, Smith said, "I didn't have any suggestions, but I was very shocked with the matchup for sure. That wasn't a bad thing. I just was not expecting that one. But once I kind of looked into him a little bit and sat on it, it makes a lot of sense why they would go in that direction." On the notion that the UFC is setting him up for failure, Smith continued, "I have a lot of conversations with these guys, and if they did, they're probably not going to tell me. But Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby have always told me that they don't care who wins. They want good fights. They want interesting matchups, and they put people in positions, and it's up to you to do what you want to do with it. Of course, we can think of people that were favorably matched and put in some better positions than others, but I've known Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby and those guys a really long time, and they've always been pretty straight up with me, even in the times I don't like it. They've always been very honest and very clear." And his explanation was really that Zhang is exciting, and we don't know where he is in terms of his skill set, and he's hyper aggressive and hard to match up, and they know that I want a fight that's going to be really exciting, not some boring scrape one out to finish my career. It's probably going to be a highlight one way or the other that gives them an opportunity to let me have a fun fight and figure out where he's at. Alex Pereira was walking around handing out money to fans yesterday in New York City.
Tirarzinho assim.
No, you want to throw? They're gonna go crazy.
Se você tira, vai ser loucura.
You want to throw?
Queira fazer ou não?
Guys, it's fair to make it. Enjoy. Enjoy. And God bless.
Thank you.
Did you know that Alex Pereira? Why?
Dustin Poirier posted a photo of himself in the gym following the news that Ilia Topuria vacated his featherweight title and is moving up to lightweight. Many are now speculating that Poirier may be hinting at a fight with Topuria next. Poirier reposted this on X, saying, "Give us the dog fight." Dustin responded saying, "Loading." Fans quickly pointed out a recent interview with Topuria where he referred to Dustin as a dog. Here's what Ilia had to say on the Full Send podcast recently.
Just imagine a fight between me and, I love that dog, Dustin Poirier. He's a fighter, you know what I mean? You know that he goes in and he fights till he dies. You're gonna have that guy in front of you fighting and try to take your head off. That's a very exciting fight for me, and I think for the fans.
So if Dustin is Ilia's first fight at lightweight, who do you guys think gets the W? Post your opinions in the comments. And that's going to wrap it up for the news. Thanks for watching. For daily MMA news and content, subscribe to Full Mount MMA and click the bell icon to be notified when we post videos. Here are the 3 top comments from last video. The first one's from BA2037. Does anyone notice how Bilal constantly says he won't fight Islam, but Islam still talks about fighting for the welterweight belt? The second one's from Big Dre from the Bay. It says Sean never takes accountability. Notice how him and Chris Curtis used to be friends, but since Chris had a different perspective than him, Sean got upset. You can tell he goes through relationships fast because of his ignorance and hard-headedness. And the final one's from Tony Ramos. It says, I'm starting a brain cell GoFundMe for the Gaethje Hooker fight. All donations welcomed. Those were the 3 top comments from last video. If you want to be featured in the next one, all you have to do is comment down below. And if you missed yesterday's news, click the video on screen right now to get caught up.